is... We'll have you roll this in stages as they go to see Anders. So the first thing I'm going to need from you is a navigation check. And it is, because you've made the trip there before, it's average, so plus 20.
You madman.
You going back up the mountain?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, on the bright side, I'm not sneaking with him, so he won't automatically be found.
It's true.
Yeah, it's... Okay, so... And you're gonna need a certain amount of success levels to find your way to the point where you'll, like, know where you are. So you are...
What I was thinking is could I use track instead of...
Yes. If you have that as a skill.
Yes. So that would pass by 1 degree.
Okay, that is good enough to have you on the right track. You're still not out of the forest yet.
Yeah.
All right, the other three of you, and we'll go ahead and switch over to this view while we're doing this part. The other three of you make your way to Anders' camp very quickly and efficiently. The elf did not come with you, and you don't hear or see her try and catch up with you. So you make it to his camp, and you see, as you're approaching, you see Sasha standing outside of his tent with her arms crossed, and she's wearing her, she's wearing her very, very form-fitting, leather armor with little accented metal plates and certain, like, typical weak points, like over her elbows and, like, her armpits, and it's very flattering while still being functional.
I will say Miss Kaminsky and give her a nod.
Hiya, Sasha. How's he doing today? Is this a good time to visit? I can never tell.
She sort of, her eyes sort of drift over to the three of you, and it's almost, there's still that measure whenever she looks at, she makes eye contact with you, you feel very distinctly like she almost seems to be calculating how quickly or how much effort it would take to just, like, completely and utterly eviscerate you. But she sort of just jerks a thumb behind her. But when she looks at you, Vertstat, she smiles just a hint. She doesn't say anything, but her eyes kind of narrow a little bit. But the only communication she gives is she sort of just gestures with her thumb towards the tent opening.
Like, so she smiles at Vertstat slightly.
It is very small. Like, if you weren't looking directly at her face, you would miss it.
Go for it, Aztec.
Gonna melt that icy heart. Alright, we go inside the
For
tent.
once, let me not be the one with the random love romantic
Alright, you go inside
and
the
or
tent.
sex scene.
And Anders is already poring over all sorts of bizarre maps, and he's got all these strange little devices and little tools all over the place, and his desk is just an absolute train wreck of just junk. And he's poring over... all of it seems to be, at least vaguely look like the Hager Cribs, but they're all very... some of the maps are very ancient looking and seem to have very bizarre markings indicating certain locations. Some of the maps are very, very technical and look very modern and seem to have been done by calligraphers in recent times, or topographers, one of those. But
Topographers. Or cartographers, actually.
But he doesn't notice you come in for a moment until the dwarf enters, and he can hear the foot tread, and he looks up and says, "Oh, my friends, you're back! Wonderful, wonderful! I was worried you wouldn't come back."
Oh, no, we
Was it
brought more
close
than
there?
ourselves, so we made it.
Just good to be back, Lord von Bruner.
Uh, he waves his hand and says, "Please, we don't need those kind of formalities here."
Yeah, it's just Anders, isn't it? We're maids. We got something for you, Anders. I think you'll be real interested in it. And I will take out one of them with the weird glowing mushrooms.
He will reach out a hand and sort of mutter to himself and say, yes, I'm familiar with this species. It grows all over the caves here. It's very popular mushroom in these parts. Unfortunately, it's not terribly edible, but it does look nice when it's naturally growing.
Yes, we found it in a cave with a shrine and a very angry troll resident that the goblins seem to not.
His eyes light up. He said, "The shrine! You found it! You're sure you found it?"
Oh
Yes,
yes,
we not look to be a human shrine. Unless you Southerners have some tendencies in line with your most northernly enemies.
Verstappen will look annoyed.
He claps. Anders sort of claps his hands together quietly, and then pulls up a chair and sits. And he goes, "Tell me what was there any particular markings? Was it carved into the wall? Was it just a single standing stone? Was it an Ogham stone maybe?"
Start to we'll mention the very carefully constructed wall of bones.
You know, Anders, I haven't seen a ton of shrines of Tal in my day, you know, but this was a shrine of Tal, if I do say so.
First, that
You
honesty
are the
makes
worst
more money
liar
than
I
lies.
have ever seen. Bad at haggling, bad at lying.
I am not lying.
He lets out a little chuckle and he says, "Well, I'm not. I'll be frank. Couldn't care less about the bones. I want to know what the actual shrine was. What was it built in the shape of? What was it made out of?" And he sort of
A big bloody pillar of rocks all standing up on top of each other in a really weird way.
he sort of pauses for a moment, and then he mutters to himself under his breath, and then he leans over and he picks up a book, looks at the spine, shakes his head, throws it aside, picks up another book, throws it aside, and then he picks up one and goes, "Ah, yeah." And he opens it, and he flips through a bunch of pages before he stops on one, and he turns it towards the three of you, and slaps his hand on a page. He goes, "Did it look like this?" And on the page is a nearly identical set of stones. They're a very different type of rock, and it looks a little more natural than what you saw, but it is a very similar idea.
That's some elf book thing.
Same style. Less. This one was more roughly created.
He slams the book shut and says, Fascinating. Well, based on the standing stones, unless there were any particular carvings on them, that would heavily indicate that it's a Tallite shrine, at least in origin. Of course, with how ancient this area is and how undisturbed it's been for centuries, could be that perhaps it's fallen to another purpose, but that means that it at least originates as a Tallite shrine. Standing stones like that are very deliberate. They're markers for the god of the wild.
So, nothing, say, elfish, then.
He goes, "No, of course not. There'd be no elven shrines up in this part of the world. That's ridiculous."
Oh, okay, good. Then it was just a misunderstanding then. Because Verve had some feeling that whatever deity is residing there may have some kind of connection to her people and all that. And I got a little worried about the elves running around killing us all for walking into their stuff.
Roll another navigation check.
Okay.
Every time Verve comes up with a conversation, it's a navigation check.
Not quite, but maybe close.
Track or navigation?
Sorry, track. Okay, you have successfully found the path that you and your companions went on. You follow it to the battlefield where there are still rotting goblin corpses, though you could tell they've been picked at by various scavengers or beasts overnight. And you quickly start climbing up a slope and following the prior path. And it takes you a little bit, but you do manage to find your way back to the point where you see the 3 small peaks that you climbed the prior day. Take an endurance check.
Straight endurance.
Yeah, challenging. All right, you're doing great. All right, Anders shakes his head and says, "No, I can assure you there is no elven nonsense up this far north. They never came in this far from the coast, even in the ancient times."
Dwarven fact checking this. Was the War of Vengeance fought anywhere near here?
Roll if you want your character to know that, you'd have to roll a dwarven lore check. And it will be it'll be hard, so -10 because your people did not participate much in that war.
Too busy fighting chaos.
Yeah. So you have no idea. Sounds right. Anders sits back and says, that's wonderful. Was there anything else? You said there were bones?
There was the goblins seem to have taken a disliking to it, and there was a stone troll that had taken up residence and seemed to be constructing the bone barrier we mentioned earlier around the standing stone.
He reaches up to his chin, which is starting to get a little fuzzy, and he sort of scratches at it and then sort of looks annoyed at his hand for a minute. It says, "A troll building out of..." Interesting. Was there anything else? You said Verve thought it was of her people. Is there a reason?
Let me ask you this, Anders. Is there a significant higher reward if this shrine turns out to be significant?
Stop haggling. We've talked about this.
No, let him try. He might get it right this time.
He holds up his hands to say, "Oh, trust me, you'll be rewarded handsomely regardless of any follow-up information. You clearly found what I was looking for."
I see. Then I suppose there are a few more facts you should know. Yes. These piles of bones were built around this shrine, or what we think was a shrine. It was very intentional, as Drac is like to say. It is an Umgi way of doing things. And then on the wall there was a marking. And can I draw it out or on something?
Sure. If you like, he kind of sees you gesturing for something, and he quickly hands you something, a very nice but easy to write with, very elaborate. It's basically what we would consider a pencil.
Yeah.
And he kind of pushes a sheaf of paper in front of you.
So very lightly on the paper, I will draw this creature's skull, I believe it was, with the horns and the antler.
Roll an art check because you are not trained in art.
Sure. What is that?
Dexterity.
Okay.
Yes. Isn't art a basic skill? Or is it trained?
So as I was saying, yes, the antlers go up like this.
Skill.
Yeah, it's a basic skill, so roll art.
Okay, sorry.
But it's okay, I'll keep that roll.
Yeah.
Or you could dictate describe it to the people in the party that are actually more dexterous and possibly capable.
Too late.
No, that's fine. So as I was saying, the antler goes up like this and like that. Ooh, where was I going? Yes. So anyways, here's the skull.
Your drawing, unfortunately, comes out looking much closer to when children use their hands to make turkeys, as opposed to an antlered deer skull, and he sort of frowns down at it, and he nods.
Drac is just sitting there in the background going, "Pyromaniac and
Verstadt will take the paper and say, "Look, you gotta twist it a little bit, and then you get squint your eyes just a tiny little bit."
He holds up his hand.
Drax
Says,
about to slap you.
he holds up his hand. And he says, "So you're just saying it looked like a skull,
Well, a deer skull.
a deer skull with antlers."
I suppose that's mostly what I'm saying. Yes.
He leans back in his chair thoughtfully, and he says, "Are you sure it was a skull and not just like? Are you sure it was very deliberately bone?"
Let's just say this. When my companion looked into its eyes, it was rather enrapturing, and I had to pull her away.
Well, that could be expected of a shrine that maybe is particularly potent, but you're 100% certain it was bone. Like like a dead deer.
Out of character. It was like a deer skull, right?
I don't know, was it?
Fuck. So yeah. Yes, I do believe it was a deer skull, a dead deer.
He leans back in
Wherever
his
that
chair,
counts.
and he says, "Was there anything else?"
When I said my compatriot was enraptured, I think you may mean, just interested, but she was rather torn to the shrine.
She described a vision.
He steeples his fingers and says, I once went on a journey with a companion of mine. We were on an archaeological visit, shall we say, to a coastal community looking for some old shrines of Manan. And we found one that was so incredibly... I don't know how... It was such an experience that my companion legitimately believed that he was a fish for 2 days and did not believe that he could breathe on land. We had to take him back with us to our camp, and it took a good time for him to the effects to wear off when he tried messing with some of the artifacts around the cave. So it's not as unusual as you might think if this place is as potent as I have. Let's just say I'm searching for it for a reason. This is not just a shrine. This is something much more famous.
Dark?
He
Bad?
sort of makes a symbol and says, I wouldn't call it dark, though I suppose it could be dangerous. Verv, roll a... Verv, do you remember what peak you have to go up?
The right peak.
Correct. Alright, you start making your way up the peak, and you arrive at the cave after this next little bit. And you do not... You pass by some pulped spider corpses at the bottom of the slopes, and as you start working your way up, you pass a couple of sites of battle, and you even see some what you think are fresher looking goblin corpses in places you don't remember, but you don't run into any live opponents.
Okay.
Anders sort of frowns and says, I wouldn't call it dark. It could be dangerous if one were to go there alone, or perhaps went there not realizing how Tallite shrines tend to self-defend, I guess you could say.
Okay,
Self-defense.
just wanted...
He nods and then frowns and says, Where is Verv anyway?
Paranoid that you're about to unleash some evil.
We're not really sure. She was not comfortable coming with us. I'm sure she's just back in camp.
He nods slowly and says, well, in any event, you've done your work marvelously. If
Would
possible...
it be an intuition check to try and guess that Verve is about to do something stupid? Is doing something stupid, right?
It would you would probably need. I would say y'all don't know Verve well enough to
Okay.
decisively make that decision.
Fair
He sort of frowns and says, "Well, for an elf, things such a powerful religious shrine to a god of the wilds and beasts could I could see that radiating with one of the forest folk. Perhaps she just felt too much of a kinship with it. I could see why that could cause some concern for her."
As I was saying, she had quite the reaction to it, so it's not too surprising, indeed.
He nods and says, "Well, I would like to get involved in my studies about it so I could hopefully prepare for a trip to the shrine myself," he says, looking around, and he reaches into a pouch. He says, "Ah, yes, your payment, of course." He reaches in and he sort of frowns and looks at the three of you, and he sort of settles on the dwarf and says, "Master Drac, if it would not inconvenience you, I would like to ask of you an oath, if that would be acceptable."
Depends upon the oath.
"I would like to have you swear on your family and clan honor that you will deliver Ver's fair payment to her."
Done.
He nods and says, "Then for each of you, I give you this." And he reaches into a pouch and he pulls out a little handful of coins, and into each of your hands, he very carefully places 2 gold crowns.
Wow. Verstat will look very, very... He's going to start sweating a lot.
Mark down Verve's 2 crowns in my inventory. It is not in my money section.
He nods and says, "Now, make sure you take care of yourselves. I would like to have you as my guides for when we go up there. Though, for the sake of where I can mark it on my maps, would you be so kind as to recount how precisely you found the cave?"
You say you would pay gold crowns again?
Verstat, right.
He chuckles and says, For your guideship when we go there together, certainly."
Of course. Drac, go ahead.
Drac will.
But you didn't even remember.
What?
You didn't even remember, and you're trying to haggle.
I'm trying to do the best for all of us that I can here, Rist.
Verstat, you're only partially succeeding at haggling because Anders is humoring you.
Yeah, Anders chuckles and says, Now, there is nothing wrong with trying to secure a better bargain. I would not have gotten where I am today if it hadn't been for my willingness to continue pushing."
There is nothing wrong, yes, except for when you've failed so many times so catastrophically in the past 3 days alone.
He winks at Vertstat and says, "Well, failure is just a starting ground from where you get better."
Thank you, sir.
Drac will explain the trip up the mountain. He's basically doing a summary of last session.
All right, he nods along and makes some careful notes and marks. He follows along on an appropriate map and makes a marking that to you seems pretty, at least extremely close to where you ended up. And he nods his thanks and says, "Now, if the 3 of you will excuse me, I have much work to do to prepare."
Of course.
All right, we are over to you, Elf. Now I'm gonna
Alright,
switch-
Elf, try not to die. Now that Sotek has lampshaded or foreshadowed you, your plan being foolish enough.
It could be foolish. I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
I'm trying to
man.
remember.
If they
wait.
go alone and not aware of how Toilet shrines defend themselves, they might be in danger. Bit subtle there.
All right,
I'm more
Cold.
loving the don't leave camp for the time being, immediately leaves camp.
You have arrived in the cave.
Okay, I haven't heard anything or seen any like things out of the corner of my eyes and the foliage.
Let's go ahead and roll a perception check just to be safe. Ooh, very nice. When you get towards the cave mouth, which seems to be fairly undisturbed, as you walk in, you hear very, very heavy, deep, rhythmic breathing from deeper in.
Okay. I am going to take it very slow and move my way forward.
You okay?
I see anything in the center of the room?
No, but the breathing is getting louder. It sounds like it's coming around from the corner.
Is the troll body still there?
Yes, the troll's corpse is still there.
Okay. Making sure he didn't regenerate.
I burnt his body. He's not regenerating. Unless Sotek's pulling bullshit.
I want to just get close enough to where I can peek around the edge.
Okay, roll a stealth check.
This party's nemesis.
I have to roll a check of my own. Okay, yep, you're good. So you peek around the corner and you see laying, sleeping on the ground is an absolutely enormous bear.
An enormous what?
Bear.
Okay. You cut out when you said bear.
And he's sleeping.
He is sleeping.
That was quick.
It's almost as if this cave might have been the bear's cave the whole time.
I wonder how sleeping.
You can try and sneak by him.
I'm guessing there's like loose stones or something.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of random debris, especially from y'all's fight yesterday.
How was there debris from the fight? It all took place in like a 2-foot radius.
Yeah, but when a troll misses and hits the ground with its anger, it tends to rock up quite a bit.
Fair point.
That is true, Ben. Thank you. I do have Rover. The only thing is getting past the bones.
Just do that quadruple front flip you did last time.
Yeah, because it's easy to do every single time.
Yeah, because we can always roll like a 3. That's how this works.
Alright, I will sneak closer
Okay?
and closer.
Okay, at that point you will need to roll another stealth check. And you do have Rover, right?
Yes.
Okay. Which
Are we
remind me,
supposed to be on the map of the thing, or
No.
are the rest of us just supposed to be in suspense?
the rest of you are in suspense.
Okay.
'Cause
You're
might
all
as
good.
well.
So is he guarding himself?
Is he guarding himself? What do you mean is he guarding himself?
Rover has the specifically looking out for you. There's tallish defense shrine stuff. Roll stealth.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and reroll. It's a 0.
Yeah. Okay, it does not wake up.